So Pramod ji has been a big fan, I think, of Anna ji. Yeah, he has a right to his views. It's a democracy after all. But reminds me of a very old saying by Mencken, which said that democracy is also a form of worship. It's a form of worship because the jackals are worshipped by the jackasses. And unfortunately, that holds very true for India, because no matter how literate and educated we may get, at the end of it, in Goa we say shinkon brut, which means after all the learning that you have, you're still an idiot. And it really shows in Goa, because the so-called educated literate class has got people who are in power, and we call them Alibaba and the 40 thieves. In the last election, we did a small campaign trying to educate people that not to vote for these thieves to bring them back into power. And a lot of people went against us, like we were doing it right. So I'm familiar with Goa. I can speak about Goa extensively. There are people like Churchill Alemao, there are people like Babush Masra, who are known criminals. They have criminal records, they have done murders, they have stolen public money, they have usurped public land, but yet they are re-elected because, and the reason for that, I believe, is because the citizen is basically corrupted. So the point is not about how many people come out, the point is how many people are brought there by trucks with the promise of food coupons. So the same thing which is happening in the electoral system is unfortunately also happening in civil society campaigns, and therein lies the corruption. And I say this very candidly. And with that, we'll open the floor, so please feel free to throw your questions.
There are 60 goals whose name is released by WikiLeaks, the Black Bunny in the foreign bank.
60 goals.
60 goals. And
count somewhere.
it's the third most corrupt state in India.
Yeah? I thought it was the first. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right from Gram Panchayat.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. In fact, the corruption starts at the panchayat.
That's why
yeah, we are talking about electoral reforms. I think I'm an 80-year-old man. I've seen a little bit of this world. I've seen a little bit of Goa at one time. When I went there, you didn't have to lock your cars. That was the type of honesty we had. But we are now talking about...
Not anymore.
Anyway, that's beside the point. But I think before we get into huge reforms, like proportional representation and things like that, which are great ideas, I think let us do something within the present system. Now, such as what? I read things like that 140 MPs in our parliament today have criminal backgrounds. Criminal backgrounds, not civil. Now, how do we get them there? Number one. Number two, since I'm an old man, I spend a lot of time on my TV and also Parliament TV, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Many times I hear that because the opposition has walked out and there was no work done that day, we lost, I think, a few crores of rupees that day because the Parliament was not. Now, I can tell you, if you go down to some debates in the afternoon, I don't think even 10% of Parliament is present. Not even 10%. 90% are
Doing more
roaming around, maybe some of them attending some standing committee, but most of them doing, you and I know what they're doing at that time. We need reforms like that. Is there no system of quorum? Why should Parliament function only when 10% of Parliament? Therefore, some reforms are possible within the present system, and we should attack them first before we get into bigger. They are required. I'm not saying they are not required, but let's look at them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Very valid suggestions. Sir, do you want to respond to that? I don't think Seri is just about the promotion.
Yeah. I mean, we in the campaign we have taken these things very seriously. What you are saying in terms of corruption, violence, and thugs getting into the parliament and non-functioning of the parliament and triggering the civil society to do something to subvert the significance of parliament. All these are taken into consideration. We may tinker with the present electoral system and be happy about it. But all the issues that we are identifying in the present parliament, electoral system and governance are addressed in the long term through the proportionate electoral system. This is not anybody's opinion. This is the experience of the world. And therefore, initially we may have to go through a hard struggle. But when we come out of it, I think India will be definitely one of the leading democracies in the world.
Will you permit me one more question?
Yes, sir. May I know your name?
You should give a question, not a statement.
May I know your name, sir?
Sat Goel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Goel. Sat Goel.
If you permit me another question, sir. When you talked about the proportional system, you named certain countries. One thing came to my mind, most of them are single religion country, more or less. We are a multi-religious society, and not only religions, we have many castes. Is that workable in a system like ours?
Just a quick response is that New Zealand is not a single religion country. Nepal is, yes, a single religion country, but you have multicultural there. In Germany, though it may be a single religion country, it cannot be said anymore to be like that. 9% of Germany's population are Turkish people. And it is composed of many small former kingdoms. Germany is a huge country with more than 80 million population, and it is very highly multicultural. And if you take Norway, we think of it only as a single religion country, it is not true. Because you have the Sami people and migrants from different parts of the world who are not Christians.
And most of these countries have a lot of indigenous people. So the whole idea is to also bring the indigenous people into the system, because they are the ones who are not included. It's not an inclusive society. So I think the point is well taken, but they're not single religion countries. But very valid points regarding, and I'm very happy to know that there's somebody else who watches Lok Sabha TV. I thought I was the only very happy to know that.
But can I just address some of his questions? This is working? Yes. You talked about attacking the existing system, correcting that. Is that better?
Yeah.
Right. There's a very simple amendment for decriminalization. Section 8 of the Representation of Peoples Act 1951, if it is altered the way the ECI has been asked for it, it will start restricting. The problem is, you're asking those people who will make the amendment possible, you're asking the crooks to chop their hands off for your benefit. Yeah? The same thing applies to black money. What they've done in 30 years, you're asking them to give it back to you. It took a lot of hard work, right? So let's be realistic. I mean, I know Jerry is not very great fan of what happened in Ramlila grounds. A lot of his observations are wrong. I know what was going on about trucking and all that. The problem is, in today's situation,